I know. That's
And you know, our population is shrinking, and we're all getting older. Yes. So, and it scares me.
Anybody would like to recommend, we try to give me an estimate on front doors.
This is when we took this morning, it'd be a no pay.
If you give the estimate to Jim, yeah.
Echo it. Well, that's what that is. I mean,
See if you. They're
Okay, we can call the meeting to order for committee of the whole. And today we have, I guess that many of us know already, but I don't know if you all know everything about him that I can make out here. It's interesting. And then he's not the first one either. I know he's been a lot of flag. Ian Coyle is County Administrator of Livingston County. He received the BA in Political Science from St. Bonaventure University and his MPA degree with a specialization in local government management from Nelson A. Rockefeller College of Public Affairs and Policy through the University at Albany. He is currently ABD in the Doctorate of Public Administration program at Valdosta State University, where his dissertation research is focused on factors influencing county managers' length of service to a community, which I thought was very interesting. He is a full member of the International City County Management Association, ICMA, and serves on the board of the National Association of County Administrators and ICMA Advisory Board on Graduate Education. He is an ICMA Credential Manager, which is ICMA-CM. Mr. Coyle has also taught bachelor's and master's level courses in public finance, public management, and administrative ethics for the College of Rockport, Northeastern University, and Villanova University. And I would like to welcome Ian to come up to the podium, and he's going to outline how the structure is in this county, and he's been working with other counties that are in similar situations.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good to be here. Beautiful day for a drive, so, almost peak, right? Almost peak foliage, probably pretty close. Becky had asked me to talk a little bit about, kind of what the structures are out there. I understand there's some, contemplation of things here in Iowa County with respect to the county administrator function or position or what have you. So I can talk a little bit about what we've got going on in Livingston County, how we operate, some of the structures, reporting arrangements, responsibilities, what some of the other counties across the state are doing or are contemplating as well. And obviously, I can ask questions too, I guess, but answer any questions that you might have on anything related to the subject matter. So, Livingston County, so we're 65,000 people. Right now, about 62,500 in the last census. So we're similarly situated population-wise, kind of in that 50 to 75 category, under 75 category with Wyoming County. 1988, the county at the time developed the local law to set up the position of county administrator. And in 1989, hired our county administrator, Nick Mazza, and you might know that name, he's there for some time. So they served from 1989 to 2009. I got hired in 2008 as a deputy county administrator under a 6-second plan. So worked with Nick for a year. If I could last with him for a year, then they were going to appoint me to that. I great relationship with Nick. Worked really well with them. So I've been in the position since 2009. I've been with the county since 2008. The structure is one that is a 4-year appointed position. So it's still an at-will position within the 4 years. You have the 4 months process for them. But if they want to keep me, there's also a process for reappointment. So that appointment is based on the will of the board of supervisors. We're situated just like you are as far as town supervisors. We have 17, you're 16, so we're around the same size. Those 17 supervisors are my collective group of bosses. So I do is I've got 17 bosses, one at home, 18 total. So I've got it's not just the chairman who I've gone through. We've had 3 chairmen in my tenure, so we've had different changes at the top, but it's not just the reporting relationship to the chairperson, the chairwoman, chairman. It's to the whole board of supervisors. That's the way the local law is written. It didn't change the structure of the government per se. It added a position of administrative authority. So the governance authority, the governing body, the policy making, the big picture planning, the activities, the decision making, you name it, resides still with the board of supervisors. The administrative day-to-day operational oversight resides with me. The difference in titles can be interesting. So manager versus administrator at the village, city, town, and county level. for the most part, that distinguishing difference between the manager and the administrator is that the manager has some more responsibilities with respect to personnel than an administrator does. So I can't technically hire someone without the board of supervisors. A manager usually can, and a county manager or a city manager form of government. So there's a few more nuances to that, but generally speaking, administrator manager terminology is kind of used loosely because it's kind of interchangeable. A manager usually has the same responsibility suite of, tasks that an administrator does. One thing that is important to note is that I follow, Becky mentioned the code of ethics, so I had an ICMA, or she mentioned ICMA, ICMA the code of ethics, so I follow it, in the purest form of an administrator manager position. That individual is nonpartisan and apolitical. It doesn't always work that way. It doesn't always work that way in New York. It doesn't always work that way in upstate New York. But that's the way that really is sort of built on. It's supposed to how to work. So, for example, I work for very much a Republican county supervisors. We have 15 Republicans, 1 conservative, and 1 Democrat on a 17-member board of supervisors. But there was a time in the board of supervisors with Democrats. So I don't have any political affiliation, so I'm a blank. I don't like the word blank, but the board of elections called me a blank. So I take it, it's right. So I'm registered to vote, but not affiliated with a political party. I like all these people that I work with, but they, give me tickets for fundraisers early on, or ask me to put up a sign or whatever. Now they know not to do that because I don't do that. So that's, to me, a distinguishing characteristic of the purest form of what an administrator should look like. New York State got 62 counties if you include the boroughs in New York City, so those are 5. If you take those out, there's 57, basically the rest of the state. Suffolk and Nassau, including them, and including Westchester on upward all the way up and all the way west. Probably roughly half and half are kind of set up governing wise. Half of them probably board of supervisors-ish. Again, these are very rough numbers. The other half is the legislature. Those are the 2 dominant forms of structure. And so around here, Tennessee County's got a legislature, Tennessee County's got a board of supervisors. Your board, Wayne's a board, Livingston's a board, Ontario's a board, so town supervisors. But Niagara County, Erie County is from NISAC and inter-county relations. So that's just a governing body structure. So New York State allows counties to be set up various ways. That's the way historically you have been set up. That's the way Livingston County. And then they allow you to have different structures kind of within that. So somebody has set up a county manager, Sioux Bend County, Genesee County, Niagara County, and some have set up a county administrator. Some have set up a county executive. So if you look across the state, there's probably 20 to 30 administrator managers. There's probably 20 plus-ish elected executives. And as far as I can tell, about 4 counties, Hamilton, Wyoming, Iowa, and Columbia, maybe 1 or 2 more that have neither an executive that's elected nor an administrator manager. So Otsego was in that group a couple of years ago, and they just recently established a position on county administrator. So that's, again, that autonomy rests with the board or the legislature to establish that position, choose to have that form of government, whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of how things have taken out. I know, I can't remember when you last had an administrator. I don't think it was when I was here, but definitely when Nick was here, there was an administrator here at some point back.
Early 2000s.
Early 2000s, right. The other, there's a couple things to talk about. The relationship. So I liken it to the composer conductor. So the composition, the composing is the board of supervisors. So where are we going? What are we doing? Strategic plan, policy making, local laws, initiatives, programs, desires, goals, objectives, what we want done. And then you're charging my county, they're charging me with working with the department heads that carry out those functions, at the programmatic level, at the department level to meet whatever the board wanted to get done. So we're the conductors to that composition. The relationship works as far as the reporting structure. Like I said, I report to the full board of supervisors. The rest of the, we have 32 departments. They are a mix of reporting structure depending on kind of how their laws are, how their position structured under New York State law. So for example, the clerk of the board is the direct report to the board of supervisors. The county attorney is as well. The board of election commissioners are kind of their own animal in a roundabout way, just the way the county law is situated. Of course, you have your elected officials, so you have your, your 4 elected officials don't report to anybody per se. So how does that work operationally? Again, it's a product of years of kind of working together, developing a culture, having that organizational kind of, cross functions. So for example, it's a lot of times on the budgeting, a lot of times on personnel. So I'm the budget officer in the county as well. That is not always the case in counties that have a county administrator or a manager. Sometimes that is a separate position that remains as the budget officer. Sometimes that's embedded into the position of administrator. But usually the interactions are with the clerk, the treasurer, the DA, and the sheriff on items like personnel, budget, operational stuff, resolution that need to be passed. It's a very much a, mutually beneficial relationship. We work really well together. It doesn't always work that way in every county. It hasn't always worked that way with us at times, but really no different than other positions. Reporting wise, though, so every other position will take the public health director. That public health director reports through me to me, through then to the board of supervisors. So that's the way the kind of reporting structure works. The hierarchy is built. If you're looking at an organizational chart, you've got the people, the residents of Livingston County, then you got the board of supervisors. They have their own hierarchy, a chairperson and committee chairs. Underneath that is, you got the off of all the people that report directly to the people, which are the 4 electeds. Then you got the other offshoot of the people that report directly to the board of supervisors. And then you've got myself, and underneath me, you've got everybody else who is not in those other groups. I don't have the visual here, but I'm going to do that kind of sums it up for you. Activities and responsibilities, generally speaking, if the budget is part of the mix, that's a major area of responsibility. If it's not, it's general operations, it's carrying out the will of the board of supervisors, it's carrying out a comprehensive plan, a strategic plan, it's grant funding. I also serve as the public information officer, so oftentimes that's an embedded component of the responsibilities of the county administrator. Labor negotiations, I also serve as the chief negotiator for the labor negotiation process for the county. So we have an HR department. We also have contracted labor counsel when we need it, but what we call the grievance officer process, the arbiter of different things, the negotiator on behalf of the board to arrive at a memorandum of agreement, a memorandum of understanding. That is something that rests with the county administrator. Activities and responsibilities besides that, again, general operational oversight could be, it's a big deal because it's always stuff cooking, projects, grants, programs, initiatives, legislative advocacy, grants, public information, communication, engaging with the public. Those are kind of some of the summary responsibilities that you find within the county administrator. Let's see, what else, before I talk about what other counties are doing, what else, I know I just kind of railed off a lot there. What else within the realm of the position is of question before I kind of segue to the next phase of the comments?
I just, when you just mentioned about engaging with the public, how does the public perceive going to you versus going to the supervisor or the chair?
So it happens in each scenario, it happens differently. In each scenario, it happens probably a little bit of all of those players in the mix. So certainly somebody is going to approach the chairman about something because that's the chief elected official in the county. Sometimes the chairman will ask me to follow with someone who approached them on some matter. What's the county doing with this? What's the county doing with that? That of course got hot and heavy for all of us, I'm sure, with COVID and the pandemic and the response and the mandates and the different things we had to go through. Budget, it could be on the budget, it could be on the tax rate, it could be on a program, it could be on why are the sheriffs here? Why did I, what are we doing here with the jail? Why are we taking this position on the gun laws? Why are we not advocating for whatever? It also comes, just because I guess probably people know how we operate, it also comes directly to me. And it will also come directly to the departments. So the engagement with the public comes in probably 3 of those different ways. So directly to the chairman or the supervisor, directly to me. And we just gotta work it out. I mean, it's not like they don't, it's not like an elected official will say all engagement needs to flow through the PIO. On a high profile matter though, we usually kind of coalesce around a particular strategy, like COVID, like a decision-making element of the board that got controversial, like a position that we're taking, whatever you want to call it. We'll coalesce around that and we'll, as the P kind of say that the messaging on behalf of the county will be delivered through whatever, in the case of, all things COVID, it was through me. In the case of something else, it might not necessarily be that way. And then sort of proactive engagement is for the most part through me. And they've sort of, I guess, divested or held me responsible for that type of work. So that would be like town hall forums or, press release messaging, or the news calls up on the fly and they need somebody to talk to somebody about something. It's usually me, unless the board of supervisors decides that they want the chair to do that. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Talk about committee chairs. Now, do department heads go to the committee chairs or do they go to you?
Yeah, no, that is one I forgot, here, committees. Thank you for bringing that up. So when, just going back, when Nick got hired, I think the county had 13 committees. Then it got down to 7 and it got down to 3. So we currently operate with a 3 committee structure. The committees are public services, human services, and Ways and Means. So Ways and Means, we have to meet today, we meet twice a month. We cover things like personnel, so anything HR, personnel, labor, contracts. We cover all things budget and legislative affairs, IT, real property, the treasurer's office. Those are sort of the reporting structures through them. I'll get to that reporting question in just a second. And then human services is health, DSS, Office for the Aging, et cetera. Public services, highway, sheriff's office, a few others. So that's kind of how we set. So 32 departments have one reporting responsibility through the committees.
And all these committees meet, they are.
So the public services and human services meet once a month, and the Ways and Means Committee meets twice a month. There is sort of a soft okay amongst the committee chairs and board members that if something on a time basis couldn't hit human services, like we got a late contract the week after, they've allowed that to go to Ways and Means. Sometimes they have to do the full board if we have to buy a vote on the floor, say, yeah, this can proceed, et cetera. So they all report directly to the committee. So for example, today on our Ways and Means Committee, we have a bunch of what I call carryovers from the home committee. So the public defender who reports to public services had a personnel resolution to add a position on her home committee, which passed it. They moved it on to the Ways and Means Committee, which means today they will either pass it or reject it, and then it'll go to the board meeting tomorrow. So she will then present again, or if she was the ITS director and wanted to add a position, and it was on the agenda today, she would be presented for the very first time to that home committee herself, not me. So they go directly to the committee with a reporting structure. And if they don't have anything on the agenda, so, you know this as well, there's lots of departments that we have a county historian that doesn't have a lot of action or activity that necessitates the board to approve a contract like ESS does all the time or public health does all the time. So we've also have a structure where they are asked to come quarterly, even if they don't have a formal resolution or departmental update.
Are these what you're talking about reflected in your rules of procedure? Like if they were to get a copy to the supervisors, they would be able to.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So then they would have a reporting structure. Now, if a department head is going to, like a personnel item, like the public defender, process-wise, that position already would have had to receive approval from me to get on the agenda in the first place. So that's the way the reporting structure would work kind of on the background. Every position that is already authorized by the board on a full-time basis, to approve a vacancy being filled, the way our process works, I have the approval to do that, the funds are there in the budget. I can't create a position by myself, though. I can't delete a position by myself. I can't convert a position by myself unless it's approved by the board.
It's still.
But I can fill what's correct. I can fill vacant ones. So, previously approved, deputy road patrol here, has been in the budget for a while. That person, had, quit or goes to another county or city. The sheriff sends a request to our, we call Laserfish. Might have that. So we have like a electronic record system. They send a request, I'd like to fill it. It's fill an existing position. Yes. If the sheriff says, oh, by the way, we're thinking about that, I also need another road position. Create a new position. If I say yes to that, that triggers that department head, in this case, sheriff, to go to the committee to then seek the approval track. And then on the full board meets twice a month. They hear all the committee action items, obviously. In addition to that, from a reporting structure, last couple of years, we put into place, some board members felt that they weren't getting enough touch points and time and face time and audience time or exchange with the department heads or even the chief elected officials like the county clerk at the time or whatever. So we set up a system where quarterly we have at least one department talking to the full board, with a full board meeting with a departmental update. It's not an ask for any action items. It's not a resolution. It's literally just, so the other day was probation. We were going on probation. Here's the stuff we're dealing with. Here's the challenges. Here's the staffing. It's 10 to 15 minutes of a, half hour, 40-minute meeting. And we set that up a while ago. So again, there's really no surprises per se. I mean, the committee chair is often involved in some of that stuff. I'm 100% involved in that stuff, and before it reaches the committee to talk about something that the whole committee talk about.
Do you have an administrative assistant?
I have a title that's like that. So we have a secretary to the county administrator, who also serves as the secretary to the county attorney. So it's like a shared position within the office. So just to do our administrative suite, I think it might be helpful. We have a county attorney. We have the secretary to the administrator, county attorney. So who's kind of my administrative assistant as well. We have another title that's called administrative assistant, but that individual is the county purchasing director. So that's also in the administrative suite. And then we have a grant and public information coordinator position. We set that up a couple of years ago. We used to contract out grants, and then we brought it in-house. So that individual, we also have a unique arrangement with the county. We are the grant writer, and I guess you could say grant coordinator for every town and village that wants to seek a grant that the county that pays for. It's kind of a pre-existing shared services arrangement. So that probably makes us unique, the fact that we almost have to have that position. So if any town or village, we've got 26, 17 towns in our village, wants to write a grant for anything, they technically just call the county and we'll do the writing, administration, et cetera for it. Otherwise, they have to pay for it. So we have that position in the office, and that's it.
Any questions before it continues?
But just a couple more things on the reporting relationships and how that works. I also have we have a kind of a board leadership structure, which I'm sure you do as well. So we have the chairman, the vice chairman, and then we have the three committees. So those, I guess you could say that's the board leadership. That's the leaders of the board has chosen to be the respective heads of the committees and the respective chief elected head of the whole county and then the deputy chief elected head of the whole county. That group meets separately with me once a month to go over, in fact, we have that meeting tomorrow, kind of go over, really high profile things, big picture projects, challenges. So for us these days, the nursing home is certainly a challenge as far as finances go. Broadband, we're doing a lot of broadband initiatives, so that's a challenge. Recruitment and retention in general is a challenge. Where we're at with the union negotiations, collective bargaining. If we have department heads that have come and gone, where are we at with different, filling and recruitments? We certainly talked budget, and then we talked the stuff that's going on, maybe economic development or some other projects. So, and that's about an hour meeting. That's not a public meeting. That's more of like a prep to the board meeting with myself and the chairs and the board chair and the vice chair. The other thing, just talk about third and success of the process. Otsego County is the most recent example of a county that has created a position. So they vetted it, spent a lot of time, talked about it, created a position. Then they went ahead and tried to fill the position. They did have I would call kind of a swing and a miss. You know, it happens with counties and administrator, manager, wherever it is, department heads, whatever. Nothing against that person or the process, but it was some person that didn't last in that position. So that was only like a 7-month-ish tenure, I think. So they did backfill that position where a person was an existing county administrator in another county. So you kind of create that domino effect too. So that county is now recruiting for a county administrator. Most recently, Warren County, which is the capital region, Lake George, was recruiting for a county administrator. I assisted them in a small way with that recruitment to try to kind of drum up interest. They were see if anybody else was out there that I might be aware of that would be interested in the position. They, I think, are interviewing this week. In fact, they had an administrator that was there for about 4 or 5 years, and then was kind of plucked, I guess you could say, by the private sector. They, kind of made him an offer to good reviews, kind of a thing. So he went to the private sector. So they have a vacancy there. That other county, whose county administrator went to Otsego, of course, had a recruitment process, and they're kind of backfilling the position. Usually, if you have an existing position, the first step, a county, when I've been involved, is they take a look at the job description, what's working, what's not working, is everything clear, is the responsibilities clear for payment communication, are there pieces of the job that are always done or were done by the incumbent that are expected to be done by the successor. Last example is there's a village, not a county, downstate, where the village manager, so akin to a county administrator, was also the building inspector, was also the DPW superintendent, was also the village clerk, it was also something else. So that person also had a layered compensation on top of the base salary to accomplish that. But then now they kind of said, well, you know what, we want to go in the direction where we split it up. So sometimes you see that with a county with maybe labor components, maybe budget components, maybe information components, maybe even planning director components, where you have kind of a relook or a reset at what was done before. So you have a situation that you were pursuing of having a kind of a pre-existing older job description or what worked and what didn't work, and an update to that. That's kind of normally step one. Step two is inputs from the board, the department heads on kind of just holistically organization wide, what could work, what won't work, and what direction the board wants to go in. Then you get down to the job specifics, clarity of roles, requirements, and then you kind of go out there and try to find someone to fill the position. And there's various ways and paths you can take for that. But that's generally, what it looks like as far as the process goes. I've been involved in a few of those with Vince County, the deputy positions in Genesee County, most recently in Warren County, and a few others at the local government level as well. So if you get to that point, I certainly we can connect with you on that. But those are kind of generally the process steps that most counties would take if they're going to consider that. What other questions might you have?
Talk about EMS, Livingston County.
Yeah. Sure. Well, reader digest. 2005, we had a fly car service. Chief Van Herrick is actually, just kind of, go out to the scene and respond when they responding, another responding entity. We had a Monroe and rural metro both served the county. They came to my predecessor and asked for a sizable subsidy out of the county government to continue their presence in the county geographically. If you knew my predecessor at the time, he told them to buzz off, and a couple of certain words were probably in there as well. The county then kind of started to grow very incrementally. That was when we led to the establishment of the fly car, we started growing incrementally. When I got hired in 2008-9, we had a situation of a couple of crews at the local level that were not able to make the call responses like they used to be able to make. Primarily, that was one or two members had a job situation, one or two members moved, whatever, and that completely dissipated. So their no crew rate was, through the roof. And from a emergency medical services coordination perspective, which of course we've always had an emergency medical services coordinator and a medical doctor, that wasn't sufficient, and the board had sufficient with that. So we got into it that way by purchasing a used ambulance from a Kylerville ambulance, York ambulance, kind of close by. And we established 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. service in those 2 jurisdictions. So that's how we kind of small started. We built back through MedX company out of Leroy. We hired our own BLS at the time, and then more so ALS technicians. We made them county employees, and we started to really be kind of phase 1 of the effort. After that, what we had was a couple of other towns and villages had similar situations. So Springwater had a situation. Groveland, part of their town had a situation with Geneseo, meaning they couldn't come up with an agreement with Geneseo. Village Geneseo was providing coverage, Danville was providing coverage up, and the agreement was such that they couldn't meet it. They couldn't have meeting the minds. And so the county of Livingston, when we got our CON back in 05, we had the CON certificate of need for the whole entire county. So we're kind of the provider of last resort, if you will, or second call up. Geneseo, Livonia, Mount Morris, Lima until a little bit ago, Avon until a couple years ago, where there was a local crew responding with their own needs and assets and resources. That was usually a village or a town or a fire department. Sometimes it was kind of a quasi-governmental ambulance company. In Avon, it was the Avon Rotary Alliance Ambulance Corps Inc., who had ambulances as a provision of service. They then gave the state like a couple of weeks notice, and hopefully a couple of months notice, and turned it off about 2 years ago. So that was 500 calls a year service that we then mobilized and kind of picked up. So we've gone from, when I got hired, probably 2,000 calls for service. We'll probably do 6,000 this year. We're now in Springwater, when I say we're in the whole county, but we're the provider of first response. Springwater, parts of Groveland, parts of North Leicester, Lima, recently Avon, and the other jurisdictions that I did not mention are usually covered at least at first by some other entity. So I live in Livonia. Livonia ambulance will go first if I'm called and they can't make it with the county EMS company. So we've now grown to a very robust department. There's no two bones about it. On a per capita basis, we probably have the most robust emergency medical services provision in the entire state of New York at this point in time. So we have, 50 plus staffers, we have 9 ambulances, we have ALS techs, we have EMS techs, we have a director, we have a deputy director. That all kind of rolls up to a cost of about $2.5–3 million a year gross. And then we bill back as an ambulance provider can under third-party billings for MedX to the tune of probably about a $500,000 to $800,000 local share, probably closer to 5. So on a $30 million budget, we're asking the taxpayers to come up with $500,000 or $750,000 to support, that level of public safety service.
How long did you go from 6 to 6 as opposed to 24 hour?
Oh, no, so we're thinking about, and when we started off in that one community, we were probably 6 to 6 in that. Well, it was 2 communities. We were probably 6 to 6 in those 2 communities for a couple of years. And again, literally just in those 2 communities. And then we had that was really for BLS. We had the fly car ALS countywide. We were kind of doing our thing, but again, we were doing our thing in an environment that had more local players who were able meet the call by and in the places that were able to, be set up. So Springmore used to have an ambulance forever, and so did Kylerville, and so did George.
So what you told us that the county subsidizes that to some extent.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So I mean, the way our board, it's a mind shift change, though, or mindset shift, I should say. That the board basically said, this is a service that we wish to be in the business of. And so once you say that, you would call it a subsidy, but and many board members do, and they still do. But it's it's support from the tax levy just as much as they're subsidizing my office. They're subsidizing the sheriff's office, they're subsidizing the hall. We do not subsidize the nursing home, we're gonna have it subsidized nursing home, DSS, et cetera. So it basically said the board had a mind, and it took a while, the mind shifted to say, we are desirous of providing service. We can build back as much as we can. Granted, we can gain revenue as much as we can, but at the end of the day, if it costs X, Y, Z, we're willing to do it because really that was the answer we had to provide. We had to provide a solution. And the solution at the time wasn't able to be provided by the private sector. And it was, and nothing against the people, because these people are some of the greatest community stalwarts that we have, but it was waning in certain situations. Some person who was doing 100% of calls moves out of their jurisdiction. And that's what was happening in a couple of our town villages.
I do the same thing in town of Perry, just a few less zeros in yours.
Yeah.
You're going back to municipalities,
No, we're billing back the person who's
you're developing the insurance for them.
correct. Yeah,
If they don't have insurance, do they just get a bill?
they get a bill. We do what's called like soft billing. So we have, we have the attempts at trying to do it, but we have a collection firm, but I'll be honest, we don't really do a lot of, hardcore. We're going to threaten the credit with somebody that can't afford an ambulance bill. Particularly some of the lead programs across the state that you're supposed to have to build in if you're, ambulance company of any size. So we kind of incorporate those, but generally speaking, it's also not a full bill back. So you might bill back your charge structure, just like, the nursing home or some other thing, where your charge structure is X, the insurance companies are going to pay you less than X. But we periodically every 12, 18 months, we look at all the regional comps to what they bill out for their ambulance services. We try to be kind of in the middle, not the highest, not the lowest. And then again, that's just their bill, that's not what we get paid. So then we factor in the budget, how much billing are going to go out, how much revenue is going to come in. And again, that gap, to your point, that gap isn't covered by the county.
Is your tax levy county-wide or do you?
Yes.
Okay, so you're not just levying those communities there.
Yeah, no, that's a great question, because that has come out periodically, especially early on, when we're just kind of fledgling and growing. That issue is not unlike what you have in jurisdictions that have a local police department. So we levy countywide sheriff services on the road patrol countywide, irrespective of that jurisdiction, doesn't really necessarily have the heaviest of response that you would have if you didn't have your own, or you had your own local police department, that's the village. But early on, I gave you a little bit of a thing, but again, early on too, though, we were countywide, really day one, we just weren't doing the heavy volume. But we were countywide in the firearm program early on. So you could have a certain amount of service provision in your town or village. Even if you had, like Livonia still gets a lot of services, even though Livonia ambulance still exists in my county, because they're tied up, they're on a call run, they have to go a long distance. Livingston County's there to kind of backfill. But that's a very good question, because it's definitely come up. All right, yeah, well, you know where to find me, right down the road. Good luck with your, contemplation, and anything else for me, just let me know.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, sure. Yep, have a good rest of the day.
Enjoy those colors out there.
Yeah.
You just have. Maybe use the other help. Is there helping internet stuff? Oh, computer here? Over here. Oh. Ooh.
There she goes.
Turn up this, please.
Then whatever you do here.
Popular. Some days it doesn't pay to be popular. Oh, gosh, so I got a call back. Or who's listening to?
And you bring up your name. Okay.
Bring my stuff.
Over. Yeah. And sure about over.
know you're all on the edge of your seats, just waiting. You're not. Something like that. Did everyone have a chance to look at all of the, I thought we'd start with the easy stuff, the contract agencies. Did everyone have a chance to review the request? And have some idea of what they're requesting and why? Hoping that's the easy one. What's that? It is the one. Contract agencies, what are you looking at? They're all spread out.
They're all spread out.
Huh?
Yeah. So you said two. Solar stuff that they're saying. They've got two sides. She does it. Acquired.
Gradient.
Sure. Went to the lunch for a craft show where I'm at the site.
Oh, yeah. I saw you walk by.
Oh, you
You
did?
didn't buy anything from us. You just buy.
Oh, you sell hot dogs?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Coffee. Coffee.
Coffee. I didn't see you, I'm sorry. That's nice.
They were,
It was a nice weekend.
the attendance was down. Whether what, I know that fire chief told me that, in period of parking the cars, they were down 1,000 cars on Sunday from last year. Down 1,000.
They were competing directly with
Ellicottville.
They had to shut the park off.
Ellicottville, very well known.
It is.
Canada.
Yeah.
Sure.
You know, that's never gonna happen. I mean, that's part.
Possible.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm sure.
Ellicottville
Ellicottville.
has one,
That was too, yeah.
same weekend.
Sure, that one hurt.
Well, we thought about getting hold of Paludas to see if they can get a bye week for that, so people were home watching football game. Think that worked?
No, they've been doing it there for a while. I can't tell you how long, but I remember hearing about it in the past.
But it was promoted really good on the news,
It was.
and I never heard
Really
much
think about it.
promoted at all as far as.
Nope. But yeah, I think it's consistently run the same weekend, but don't hold me to that.
I remember. hearing about it.
Drive down through there, up on a summer or fall weekend as it is. Ellicottville, oh, crazy.
I'll take like 2 minutes.
Apparently, because you're logged in for, that's why it doesn't show up and you're logged in too, and usually I log in prior to moving it up for the computer. So for that.
Right.
He said you gotta be logged in order to have that. So it's essentially on private, right? Then I can't really do everything.
David, I just not gonna be here.
Right.
See that.
So what was the email?
Can I just bring my?
Yeah, that they were, that they were gonna charge for month to month or something?
So get some. Thanks.
I have to.
How'd they go?
Good. The game is fantastic.
Josh Graham, you know, he's fire chief in Dayton, so he's at.
And that's why they were trying to outspell. And,
An excavator fired, barn.
Well, that's not good.
What's going on, Pavilion, Jerry?
Huh?
What's going on, Pavilion?
Excavator fired Milligan's. Near the barn.
Oh,
so.
this is pretty interesting. This will be the maiden voyage for our new truck.
Oh. So, Bill was very, and he talked very happy. We know that. Fire chief. All right. Fire chief.
Yep.
Who said if I needed to talk to him? So, anyways, he said, yes, I just went out. For a raise, conversation committee. Was it ever brought up?
That was that.
Yes.
On a tanker, very soon.
Well, so we get it, you need more and more companies because you don't have people.
I'm like,
It's 60
it's like.
Yeah, that's not bad.
chief and assistant chief. And two guys that are my age. And Kane Freeman and Chad.
And when I talked to him about this whole ambulance.
And it's not that they don't want to.
I mean, here's a
Yeah,
the list of guys not available.
right.
You know, Dave Clore, he's on his way to Florida, his father. No. Know these equipment are mentor, guys going in the water doesn't. Yeah. Well, they were down there digging, I think.
Susie, where was it?
It's valuable to comment for Harry Senator.
You just need so many companies for the mail. And that's what it is. I keep saying we need to reevaluate the equipment we have.
We downsized one truck now, and
Just, we should have replaced our ambulance. You know, in the rotation of things.
yeah.
There's no, absolutely no sense. There's nothing the matter with it. Even if we have to put a few $1,000s into it for the next few years. Because we don't know where this is headed.
That's the whole thing. You know, we got. Three tanker, got rid of our tanker. You got your bean pumper. We got our brush. Tractor, where we want to call it. Tanker filler, brush. Slash brush. And then we got kind of a rescue vehicle. That. No, we don't have an ambulance. They
Right.
use that as kind of our flight car.
Oh.
We used to have two pumpers, a tanker.
We got two pumpers. And a tanker. And a rescue. And an ambulance.
What's the thing? Just called today. No, one truck left. That's it.
There's a little what you're looking for, this, I.
Right.
The bath there.
Two guys that are responding to fire.
Down and they make.
Right.
Out of the six, two of them are chiefs, at least two Indians.
I don't know what their hours. Where Ayers is used to live.
And our, again,
Okay, I was thinking.
hers is not a situation.
No, Benny is, the people can steal it by make changes, that kind of. It's Jonas. Jonas had,
When you don't.
I don't know who
Had
ever
it.
run
Oh, another response, another fire. All the old guys. Fire.
Yeah.
Didn't respond.
I knew it was part of the fault.
Indians.
Eagle or somewhere that's.
Jar, Tyler,
And it's gotta be Amish,
Yeah.
because they only can,
Doug Wright's fire.
so it's gotta be. And it's a door.
Man,
It's independent city.
If it goes correct, half the time mine doesn't go. They'll say, oh, no such address.
Yeah, it's the one in North Bay, it's fun, yeah. Those are expensive. They do yours for like,
Where you live at, what kind of door?
This is down this floor, because
they go all over.
if I get estimates, then I can take them to Jim Tusk, you know, tell me a or something. Because he pays. So, you know, this one, I was not. Door store or door.
Who has that?
It's the Amish,
Okay, I thought it was on. You can call between 7 and 8 or something.
yes, and it
Yeah, you can't.
does all kinds of, Yeah.
They did my kitchen. I know all about that.
Just email me the.
You can only tell them to do it.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know. Becky, Brian, are you reading texts now?
I don't know what it might say.
Yeah, go.
Doesn't stop.
When you go to navigate,
it-
I end up, there's the town bill.
a friend of mine said last night that he bought 2 doors from them. I didn't realize they were doing doors.
I just saw it in the penny section. I'm like, oh, it must be Amish because of the Ukraine problems.
It's that times.
Sweet.
There's no reason to really have.
Right next to their bunk site.
Here, I think the hat, here we go.
Okay.
Oh my God, I can't see it.
Are we good?
Alright, so
Small.
before we start, I've done some work since we met on Tuesday. I met with, or I worked on, the debt payment for the hospital. So originally, we were going to try to help the hospital out by paying off their a couple vans that they just took out. And I ended up pulling that out and just making a van payment instead of paying it off. So I reduced the, we don't have to look at this that much. I reduced the amount that I'm paying to the hospital by $1 million. And I sent that to Mark Wright and Dave Cobus. They're okay with that. They did respond, said, okay, that makes sense, we're gonna do that. So I did take care of that. I took care of some of the other little things that we talked about, some of these market rates, for some reason I had different numbers. I already had some of the changes, so I don't know if it's something that's already changed, but I already had those changes. And I also sat with Mike Adamsack on Friday, went over the projects we have out there, went over how much we think we need for additional projects. And bumped some things out to 2024, 2025. We really talked about what we have to get done. So I was able to reduce that amount towards those projects, based on Mike's input. And so with those 2 things, what I did was, that brought our tax levy increase, and again, this is with $4.5 million fund balance, which is a little less than 5 that I had in there. $4.5 million of fund balance, that takes us to 7.07% levy increase. Now, your tax rate is all over the board, so I don't know how you guys want to look at the tax rate. We had a 17% growth increase in our assessments. That's huge. I've never seen a growth that huge. Usually it's 4, 5, 6. I don't know if it's your assessment in Bennington that kind of reassessed everything. I mean,
I know, that's not. You know.
yeah, so 17% growth is huge. So I just want to make sure you can all explain that to your people. Because I know that's always a sticky wicket, it's how do you explain that to people, so. So one thing is, if you are at 100% in 2021 or 2022, and you're at 100% in 2023, that means your tax rate is going to be reduced by 0.37%. Which sounds good. Right? Yeah, you have that tax rate. I do. So for 2023, here's where you were for 2022.
You sent this out, right, Janice?
I did not, I
Yes, I
went,
thought.
but not.
Not since you updated, but the initial one,
Send it out again.
because I remember seeing something similar to this recently.
So basically, here's your 2022. Here's your 2023. You can see the outliers here. This is why I hate using the, and you have to use the average for some things. It's just such a weird output to take out with outliers, but, so Bennington's looks funny, is what it is. You've got ones that are 100% in 1 year, and then 100% in 2023. So you've got Gainesville, looks like it's, that's where you're seeing it's a negative tax rate increase, well, decrease, it's a tax rate decrease, that's correct. So it's all over the board. So, yeah. So what I do down here is I say, okay, you've got $100,000 house. If you're an arcade, that means it's a $34 increase. If it was 100,000 and 100,000 in both years, let's say Gainesville.
I know it.
Here we go, in Gainesville, they're gonna see a $3. If you were assessed 100,000 or 100% in 2022 and 100% in 2023. This is my chicken scratch over here. Basically, I was taking Bennington and I was saying, okay, if I was assessed at 97,000. I should say 22, 23. So those dates aren't right, but so 97, and then 35% of that, because you were at 35% assessment. Okay, so that's what you would have paid. And then say now you reassessed it and they're at 427, which I've heard a lot of them, you know, obviously you're only assessed 35. So if you're assessed at 100, you know, that's 100%, then your rate would be 96. So that's your, I know it's gonna be hard to explain to people, but I think most people will understand it.
Most people just wanna know what the bottom line.
Yep.
Yep, what's the bottom
They don't
line?
care about
Where
the
am I,
rest.
what have I got to pay?
They care.
I don't know what the bottom line is.
It's gonna go up.
Right.
Yeah. So the only one that's really tricky is Bennington, because obviously if you're 100% in last year,
Be a lot of questions there.
yeah, that's gonna be a tough one. We'll probably have to work on a worksheet for you if you want.
Yeah.
We have.
But basically, you would be at where everybody else is for $1,000. I wanna get back to 100.
I do too,
So-
but they voted.
So that's where we are.
They didn't wanna burden the tax.
And that's without talking about the things we need to talk about, so. As I was gonna say, it's not horrible, but it's not horrible because we had that 17% growth, that's awesome. Which I guess in a weird twisted way, it's like, okay, that's a perfect storm to make it be this year, but.
It was the same as our game.
Yeah, I'll send that out. So. One of the things I thought we could start with, as really small, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Just bottom, right of your screen. Bigger,
See where it says 100%? Yeah, there
there
you
you
go.
go. That's better.
That's nice. Thank you.
Yeah. I can see the screen now.
All right. So here's our contract agencies. I'd like to talk about some of the requests. Hoping everyone read the requests. So, community action, which we began subsidizing them a little bit for, I believe, the Attain computer lab. That was the original ask. And we're doing 10,000. 2021, we had that rough year and we asked everyone to reduce. 2022, they, we approved 20,000. And in 2023, they're asking for 45. Now, I believe they submitted in their narrative something about a program they'd like to keep going. Jerry, you want to talk about it or?
The only thing I can add right now that I know of, Ellen, you know more about it, but it's the program to do the aids for the hospital,
Right,
training program for aides and nursing aides.
I think they had a grant or something before, we had some sort of grant or subsidy before from somewhere. And then they didn't get it again.
Correct. That's the reason why they had the bigger ask was to continue that program going so that they can generate some aids. Whatever for the hospital.
So that is. And I don't think that's at the last committee that Rosemary came and talked about that.
Did not. She did not.
Okay. So, I know she explained it in the narrative.
She's gone now, so,
She is.
Mhm.
yeah, she retired.
So I'm sure you're all anticipating me asking if you want me to leave it at 45, or if you wanted me to reduce it, or if you wanted.
Are these numbers? Is the request?
45.
Is the 45 included in your,
Everything right now is included.
okay,
So everything that we're discussing except for EMS and the county administrator
Yeah.
issue.
Yep.
And how we're funding a jail project, which would most likely be borrowed bonds, and we're gonna capture that. So
so this 45 is in the budget.
it's in the budget, right?
It's in the number that you just gave me.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, it's $34
Yeah.
thing.
Right.
It's in the number now. Everything, that-
All these things in yellow.
they're all in there. Yeah, there are things in the. You know, people put stuff in the request, that list that I sent out for you to look at. That's all in there. I didn't take anything out. I didn't take out any new positions. I highlighted them to discuss them. So, the other ones are pretty much the same. So tourism asked for the same amount. They asked for 190 for Bennett tax, however, I increased it to 218. Because based on revenue, that's what they will probably most likely get. I took out the 29,000 and put that in the ag center, so we have a good number for how much it costs to run the ag center. If it was just county employees, I wouldn't care, but I really want to know how much we're investing in them for the other entities.
I appreciate that too, Gina.
Yeah.
Like we talked, they have a separate
Yeah, so even though tourism is asking for it, I put it in the ag center budget, so we'll still contract. So there's pretty much didn't change, the business education council didn't change, LDC didn't change. Arts Council, they asked for an additional 10,000. So the amount in yellow are what was increased or decreased. The pink is what they requested. So
So you bumped it by 10, up 10 grand.
I did it, they asked for 10 grand. more.
So if you
That's
did
what I'm
put
saying.
that in-
I mean, you want to do the, those are the questions I'm asking you in the yellow.
Okay.
So, they asked for an additional 10,000. And then small potatoes down here with, the extension and soil and water. So I guess I'm asking, is everyone okay with these increases? Is everyone not okay with the increases? Do you want me to say, are we good with those?
Why is the art council asking for 10?
Right.
I don't think I read there.
I think the Arts Council is asking for 10, the fair should get 10.
I'd rather give it to the fair.
Right, I'm with you.
Well, I can see the Art Council probably thinking, all right, now we've got the craft show in Wyoming County. So the county's getting more sales tax dollars.
Cheryl, and Cheryl's explanation last year was that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
Correct.
It all depends.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot more people getting more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I go to the fair. I go to
Let
the
me
fair.
see. Like,
I don't go to the arts council.
there's Arts Council.
Next year.
Never end.
Alright, saying. 50% will be used to support portion of the service of personnel. 25% will help our schools, exhibitions, satellite, and professional galleries program. 25% will support technology, including software and tech search.
Sounds weak to me,
Sound like they're giving big raises.
Yeah,
hanging up a picture of the bank.
or the Y.
She talks about the inflation rate. Not a lot of concrete stuff.
Is community action, did they produce a lot of aids for the hospital? Did they have the numbers? I didn't read.
I'm not sure what the numbers were.
That's all, I mean. The same old story, you get somebody trained, they come here for a week, well, yeah, a few months or a year, and then.
Off they go.
Nursing home in Leroy will offer them another $1 an hour and they're gone.
They're gone.
But I think there's been some pretty good results as far as the training.
Well, I know they had
And
that.
that's really, it's one of the only places in the county that you could get the training. You know, you used to have a nursing school there at Top Small 100 years ago. That doesn't happen anymore. So
Better and go on to.
absolutely,
The nurse.
you can become an LPN.
Exactly.
Right.
And if they do that, they have the opportunity to utilize county funding to, as long as they work for a certain period.
So that's a program that's benefiting.
I can benefit to that, as more than I can see
I
the
can't-
benefit for the Arts Council.
Me too. That's how I'm looking
Not
at
that
it.
it gives the Arts Council, but
Right, but this is giving people jobs and helping the community, whereas the Arts Council, I don't.
I think, yeah,
So I'm sure you all read too that this was talking about the third annual fundraiser at Letchworth Park, being that it moved to Harry,
Right.
that the revenue received wasn't as robust as it had been in the past.
Right, well,
Their annual auction was canceled because of inadequate auction items.
That's worth our show. They didn't pay any extra money for the art show, did they?
They get money as a fundraiser.
that's their problem.
Yeah.
We don't get the money.
No, I mean, does the arts, how much money do they get for
For the booth, I think their booth.
the booth?
They charge booth fees and everything else.
Yeah.
Well, they can only, they have to come back and the number because it moved in the
Right.
park.
Because they're, you have to hit the bill.
Yeah, but they didn't want to go to the fairground.
In the meantime, weren't they paying for all the security over there?
Fairgrounds, they've been inside the building. Okay.
At the end, how much did they actually make?
Well, it's not for.
I have.
Public consumption, yes, we have no idea.
What they make and what it's spent. You know, what's the budget?
Yeah.
The only benefit to us is. If it wants.
And there's some, we just don't know how much.
On the other hand, you also got added sheriff's patrol stuff. Right. And the Perry PD. They used to pay those county sheriffs. Right. Pay a hell of a lot more now. It was in the park. Right, the park is the sheriff's office, they don't pay the fine.
That's why I'm saying, okay, I got all the revenue, but what's the expense for, you know, the security for the Livingston County Sheriff's Department?
Right.
The health department,
But that's it, our health department's got to cover all that now.
Those buses cost a barrel of money every day. Barrel of money, I think it was around 35,000.
a day.
Oh, no, the whole 3 days.
Oh,
So they go ahead at the fairgrounds and not pay the bus.
yeah.
I mean, that's the other side of it. You know, it didn't fit their motif, that was the word we used. It didn't fit their motif to have it at the fairgrounds. I just don't understand it.
Me either.
Yes.
Can I assume the other ones are okay if you want us to keep talking?
Well, here's a suggestion. I mean, if we're gonna keep the 10,000 in there, just give maybe 2,000 to the Arts Council and 8,000 to the Fair Association.
It's a fair need. I would think it's a fair need if they asked for it.
We have $150,000 that we owe on a barn. So is there a need or a use? Yes.
And probably Mike doesn't want to ask because he sits on this board.
Right, exactly. But would that,
I can ask, I think it. Could give them 10,000.
for the 10, whatever you want to do.
Necessary.
It's not enough.
I don't think it's necessary.
No.
If you want to give more, then more will be accepted, but I don't think 10 is necessary.
Well, that's 5 and 5.
Whatever, I was thinking a split, so.
You still want to hear something there?
Well.
I kind of know.
Thing.
They totally brought us last year, when we asked about home insurance. They didn't want to. She's still ready.
She had some-
Your narrative.
I mean. Yeah, I got a history there too.
That's early intervention.
The bottom line.
What's under
We discussed it,
human resource?
she told us.
She-
Yeah, they want, they asked money, for it, but they
Human resource.
Right?
don't want to hear from us. That's what I want. And, you know, bottom line, they need more money.
I looked there, I didn't see that.
And had 50 more vendors where they got or whatever, and no busing.
It's probably called more work, Brian.
Huh?
Public
It's
health.
probably called more work for them, that's why.
I thought it was under.
You know,
This with
I mean, yeah.
Ellen, right?
Somebody was a new, let's.
But I'm not,
Right, exactly, but who knows, who knows?
I mean, I just. Curious.
They did gain vendors this year.
Yeah.
They had about 250 vendors.
I think we need to continue to support them, but I do question
And,
the jump,
yeah,
that much of a jump.
And
Yeah.
50%'s going to personnel,
true.
what she said, right, in the narrative.
If you read the narrative, it's pretty generic.
Right,
Pretty watered down. Not a
It's
lot
not
of substance,
specific.
not a lot of substance. So
And then if they can actually explore more sponsorships to our band for the event. That's still good.
75.5.
Are they getting anything from the village of Cary?
It must be costing the village some money, right?
I'm thinking it's gotta be
Yeah, we shut all those roads down and streets.
security, yeah.
Police,
That's the Department of Public Works, that's set up all the barriers.
I guess.
So it's got to be costing them.
The money, sure.
Pay 2,500 to the Arts Council, 7,500 to fair, is that what you're?
That's exactly what it's.
Yeah. It's fair.
I would agree.
Anybody disagree?
Well, we're not cutting anything out, and we're looking at the increase in taxes. And there's a $10,000 ask, instead of just cutting it all out, saving the tax, we're gonna spread it around. No, I think we gotta cut some there. Get our tax numbers down.
All right.
Hey, cut it out, Dad.
You know. Everything's fair.
But the new 10 grand, Gina, show them what that does. Is it, I don't even think you'll see it.
I don't either.
What do you mean?
That can help.
10 grand,
I understand that, but
you'll see it.
No, see it, Frank.
if we take it.
Tax rate, it doesn't affect it, does it? It's gotta be about
How it affects the tax rate?
about 100,000 to affect it, correct?
What's the entire budget including the hospital?
Like 160,000 or 169.
Let's just say.
Yeah.
It's nothing.
Not even there.
Can't just give everything. It's been fine. You gotta cut something, no?
Yes, right. I don't have to explain it to people, so.
If
It's up to you
that,
guys.
that's fine, except that I think that program at Community Action for training the aides is pretty important.
Right, I didn't hope that,
The
yeah.
rest of it, that's what we're gonna do, let's do
Okay,
How
So,
much you got there? What's the cost?
so we're leaving the fair at 23, we're cutting the 10, so they're going back to 15. And we're gonna leave the 45 for community action, and we're going to make sure that goes to training aides.
What did the extension want, 32?
I was gonna ask the
Kind of
same
expensive,
question.
expensive to jump in out. I mean, they kind of reduced it last year when it was, they were struggling, I think they're just kind of getting back up there.
Has anybody heard about the camp? Are they gonna close that down or
Fairly certain. I mean, they haven't.
They don't have a plan.
they don't
They
even?
don't have a plan.
I mean, I have money sitting
I would-
here to help them, but I'm not giving it,
Bet
because if they're gonna close,
That
I'm
it-
gonna give them that.
again. At least not the way it was.
I'd say there's a good chance of that.
It is sad.
Really is.
Hey,
The staffing is the biggest issue. They're unable to staff it the way it's supposed to be staffed.
right.
it. They have to have a nurse on
The
Yeah.
nurse is the
That's the big
Yeah.
number.
the biggest item, and
And the bathrooms and stuff have to be
Handicap.
reconfigured because of the handicap. Yeah,
I don't think they want to say it or make that decision, just like,
well, it's, if
But
they do look at that, do they have to do something with the gender?
I don't know.
Regulation. I don't know. I'm just wondering if that's
I
a.
mean, they're
that's a-
really old. I've been there and they're really,
I mean, that would be something that you don't want.
that's not really a big deal. We did it,
because they talked about,
then we just made them all
Abby talked about opening it up
one stone.
for winter to get people to come in, you know, to do, yeah, to do
They-
snowmobiling and things like that. But it's gonna cost
Down there.
in order to do it.
Then you gotta man it.
Yeah.
Have a conference.
That's what it is.
Kind of a conference campground, so.
Yeah.
Well,
Got a big building there with fireplace and all that.
Sure.
So are we good with the for now, 432, that increase of 32,000?
Leave it in for now, see how things go. How's that?
The only thing I'm doing is reducing arts by 10. Okay. All right. Let's talk about raises that were above what was asked. So all of the market rate was on unit staff.
Can you make that bigger as well, Janice? Thank you.
So we only have a couple that we need to talk about. One of the items is, at record retention, the senior records to principal clerk for Roxanne. Right now, she's a senior records clerk, and she wants to move her to a principal clerk. At 41,000. Basically, her position right now doesn't include any fiscal responsibility. And Roxanne wants her to be able to do, do fiscal type activities. So she wants to change her title from a senior records clerk to a principal clerk, which would include fiscal activities that she can ask her to do fiscal things.
It results in increase in lot.
It looks like as a senior records clerk, she would have been at 38,205, and at a principal, she's going to be at 41. Roughly.
I know for a lot of years we weren't creating positions.
So I did
Yes, really isn't. John.
I think she doesn't really want to change the title. I think her goal is, however we get there, we can just leave the money in the budget and not, you know, obviously you still have to go through the process of approving that position through committee. And maybe during that process, she'll find that they'd rather have it be an account clerk or something like that. However, it's probably the same range of grade and, you know, the same grade. I don't know, but it's whatever grade it would be that would have all titles of financial. Is what I mean.
The principal clerk would be even below principal. So they're tiered, they're not all the same grade.
So it would be less than an account clerk,
That a principal clerk is not,
less than an account clerk.
that would be more than the counter.
I don't know if there's a difference between,
The principal clerk, principal account clerk.
okay,
Obviously, that's how the.
this is what she requested in her budget. Basically, her goal is to be able to have, Roxanne fiscal type abilities, so it's not outside of her union thing. Yes,
Is this gonna help her succession plan?
I don't know, all I know is this is what she most likely doing.
I would think so.
You know, she gets this.
I know she wants to be able to give her some financial type things to do, but she
Right.
can't. So I would say this is fine, but you guys, it's in the budget. The other one's just, I think, a calculation error. I don't know. I changed it. She wasn't on any market rate adjustment, so. Okay, so I leave it. All right. new positions. Again, these are all left in, these are all. These are all left in the budget, like a
Plus sign, Janice. Plus sign, they're trying to drive next door or whatever. So. There you go.
That's easier. Plus, it's not as,
So the highway had put in for, we'll start with the highway. They put in for 6 new positions. Actually 5, but they want to move Charlene from union position and create an administrative assistant Schedule F and then hire an account clerk. So that's one of their things. They want to also wanted to hire 2 grade construction, 2 heavy equipment operators. I actually called Devin and talked them through this, and I'm like, we can't afford all of that at once. I said, he was using fund balance to do it, and you can't do that because your fund balance will be gone. So, after talking about that, what I left in was, I took out a couple of employees. Devin and I talked about it. We left, I think, 1 or 2. One new employee, so we did the whole administrative thing with the account clerk. Again, this has to still be presented to you all, to try to put money in the budget. And I reduced it 4 employees to 2, 1 of each bridge, 1 whatever. We talked through that, he was good with that, but again, we're adding 3 positions, so. If you guys want to do that, you can do that, I mean, you still have to go through the process, but. And the 3 positions,
Well, what's the numbers on the account clerk?
Really?
Numbers on the two.
can you see them?
yeah,
That's the account clerk,
This is the salary.
yeah. So they're like 42,000.
That's a salary.
just salary though.
Plus benefits.
That's just the salary. So you figure another 50% on that for professional, 60 grand or so.
$250,000.
So
I don't know if this is a good time to be adding a lot of staff with the taxes the way they are and the way cost is going, are you really gonna be able to do more work because there's not gonna be enough money to go around
And materials.
and for the materials too? I just,
So.
The check the department. Our roads are better than the state roads around here.
you got that right.
You know, and
Absolutely.
with what we got, I'm
Got that
pretty
right.
excited about that.
Yep.
Do they need more help? Everybody needs more help. I understand
I'm
that.
okay with giving them more help as long as they do more work.
Yeah, okay, but more.
You can't get the material, or you can't get guys to work.
That's right.
Where you going, you know?
Well, that's just. Right, and like I said, we got plenty of roads in the state with the guys we got,
Without question.
with the guys we got, and I mean, it's not.
Yeah.
Not giving them, I don't want them to sit there and say, well, let me give us a second, oh, well, you guys are doing a pretty good job now. Do we need more? Do we need more? Do we need better, that much better? I don't know. The highway side, I think that people are definitely getting what their tax money there. You know. To raise the tax more, and question that.
And I know it's hard to recruit seasonal, I mean, maybe.
Yeah,
Well, that you're better too.
yeah,
Got some seasonal in there.
hard to recruit anyhow.
Could be doing mostly gonna be summer construction period.
Well, there's two things to consider here. First, the morale, I guess, is much better. With the highway department, right? And
Aaron.
I think it's common knowledge that the general feeling among the employees in the various departments is if the hospital wants it, they get it. And there's a department that every taxpayer in the county uses the road. And if, you know, I don't know, I haven't had a conversation with Devin, or does anybody know, or can they do more work if they have more guys? I mean,
His plan,
Plan.
his plan is if
He
he
does have a
more
plan.
guys, they can get more done.
He does have a plan.
and the second point is taxpayers also know what's going on, or some idea. What am I getting for my money? At least in a highway, you could say, look at the roads we've got in this county. You know, we've heard it many times, Brian, you know, we've been at Farm Bureau, we've had guys at Farm Bureau meetings say, by far, Wyoming County has the best roads.
And they do.
In New York.
Hey, John.
Proud.
Every time I cross over to Erie County.
You
Got it.
And you can tell.
better roads in the state. Well, here, drive down one of these roads.
Don't ever see the side.
Drive by 19 out here by the highway building. See what you think, you know?
So,
Tip over on it.
Might I recommend? We had put all these in the budget. We cut 2. And I took that right off the amount that we're gonna pay over, so 100,000 or so. Thing is, we don't wanna, and I talked to Devin about this, we really don't want to reduce the amount we pay over to the highway. We want to keep that about the same, because that's a big number, and if that goes up 10%, that's a huge number. So, and that's tax levy, so if we could, what I had worked out with Todd Gadd was, let's manage the fund balance in a way, just like 5-year plan, and talk about this, that it increases very moderately. So we don't see a big spike because we have like 2 minutes problem or a big snowstorm. So that's kind of where we are, is slightly higher than the amount requested last year, not a huge amount. So whatever happens next would come off what they're using for fund balance, is the way I would look at that. So might I recommend we leave the positions in and make sure that Devin knows that doesn't mean they're approved. It means you need to come and ask for those positions to be approved, whether they come in, you know, next spring. Maybe we don't have to fill it starting day 1, which means you could maybe hire more depending on where we are, depending on where everybody else is in the budget. So to me, this isn't a situation where if, you know, if we put more people in, we have to raise more, that's a given. But if we reduce the 2 we left in plus that extra, so 3, I still wouldn't reduce the amount that we pay over to say in taxes. I would say to use less fund balance. So if it's agreeable to you guys, I would say maybe we'll leave this in the way it is. And then just communicate with Devin, if this is where you are, it doesn't mean these positions are approved, they're in.
Did he increase his line items for the expense side?
Oh, yeah.
To do the more work that it's gonna go?
I did ask that question, and it's kind of. We did cut some, because I did say if we're cutting some people, can we cut some of the other, but with prices, right, everything all over the place. It doesn't get in the dark anyways, but I think we did cut 100,000 out of my 2 minutes and something on the materials maybe.
So what do you want about it? How much do you go up? You go up that.
Yeah,
And what did the lease program? What's that costing us on top? His budget for last year.
What program?
The lease of the.
Lisa,
I put 116,000 in for these.
Which was, what was his budget last year? Yeah. Do we name whatever? Well,
It doesn't matter. Money in that program. I told you that.
okay, but let's look at the numbers as they are. Are we the $116,000, what is we spending? Are we spending more money and then with 116 than what we did in the past at purchasing pickup trucks?
I'm going to answer that by saying. Can't assess this program based on 1 year. I think I said this before, that you won't know.
Right.
If you're saving anything, you're not. Until you're 4 or 5 years down, you're not gonna know. It's not, you're not, it's not gonna be, and it's a very strong.
Again.
5 savings.
Right, but up front, we're paying more. than-
Okay,
Exactly.
The first,
And the price of trucks is ridiculous.
6 or 8 trucks.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
and it's gonna get a lot bigger. I'm gonna tell you, there's gonna be a lot more.
It's happening growing, right? Because Larry and I are talking about, well, maybe not just lease.
You can't have 8 brand new trucks or relatively brand new trucks for the cost of 8
you know,
15-year-old trucks.
so. 2022. What was the number he spent on pickup trucks? We bought them. Didn't we?
Yes, I don't know if I have access to it because I won't back.
So that's the number I want. And then what's the number we're gonna spend on leasing? Because when we purchase new trucks, we get rid of the old ones. So
Well, it includes
the trading,
the trade-in.
yes, I know. And yeah, but we don't get much for our old trucks because we want to figure out the route. So what it comes out to, I believe the numbers come out that we will spend more money in the lease, the first year of the lease program than what we would have spent on purchasing a new truck. Because we did change over a lot more. We didn't just take 2 or 3, we changed 8 over.
Theoretically, yeah.
I haven't either, I've always wanted. Point,
The leasing,
you're talking about.
because we leased this year. We're only leasing for this year.
Absolutely not.
Now we're gonna lease that truck for the next 3 years, or 5 years, or 10 years. We're gonna pay the lease.
Okay, 174,000 spent last year in new vehicles, 174,000.
We spent 174,000 last year.
And that was in the lease program, right?
No.
Oh, that was this year. That was, okay.
That was what we spent on new pickups.
Is that just the pickups or the other?
That was vehicles, pickups.
So the first year we're spending 100, the second year we're gonna spend 116.
But he gave me 160, that's the number he gave
So
me.
it's saving the 60 grand first year. No,
There you go.
Money ahead.
I'm gonna tell you, we don't spend 174 every year on vehicles. I have that. myself.
Right.
Not, obviously, I keep track of it.
Savings and your maintenance.
But I keep track of it. That's what I needed to analyze the data to determine if we're not saving.
There's no possibility.
We all. know that.
Unless you want to dig down so deep.
Just move on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I have no problem with it.
I don't either. I think it's.
So.
I think it wouldn't be
Yeah.
if it wasn't.
But.
That's fine.
That's mine. I've had this for 20 years.
We want to look further for what?
Oh,
Do you want to eat lunch or do you want to keep working?
I don't, whatever it is. I don't have any dog.
Got another dog?
Yeah, all of them. I'm looking up by 2 minutes.
When we finish with highway,
So by 2 minutes, the original budget provided 2 minutes for this year was 1.8. We increased it to 2.5. We put 2.6 in the budget. So it's a lot.
Given things are reasonable. I hate to say that.
So we cut bridge materials, that's what we cut.
We cut bridge materials, but he wants to hire 2 bridge guys.
No, we cut it because we took one of the bridge guys.
Oh, okay. All right.
Cut.
That's why you went from 2 point. You went from the, what, 2.6 to 2.5, you said?
What's the 2.6?
I,
He's got 2.6 for maintenance.
First, we cut.
That wasn't for the bridges though.
but that was bituminous, but that was,
2 minutes, we put in the 2.6.
1.8.
That was this year, 1.8. We just revised it to 2.5.
So,
We just revised 2022's to
so technically we're over 100.
no, because what you adopt, you get one chance to adopt.
Yeah.
The other money came from somewhere else. It came from snow, I think, snow or, you know, something like that, and I think they took it from the snow. We're approving it this today. So, I'm surprised Dan's not here. The online.
He said he.
You didn't know about it.
He didn't hear it.
So he'll be asking us
So.
later. And what we've already talked about.
Before, because I'm thinking we can watch, if you guys want to break the lunch, do that and then do what we're gonna do with the EMS. That's a big number in county administrator, which is a big number, but you know, I don't know. So, the rest will be talking about fund balance. I mean, there's little things in here in the departments. There's a couple more, positions. Shit, we did have some more. We've got real property, which you've already approved. DA, a legal intern for the summer. You guys know about that. And the sheriff would like a clerical position. And this was all of their, I popped their narratives under it, so I remember it, but.
that's records.
I talked to Dave Linder about that position. Of course, he says it was because they never replaced me when I left in 2011. So they're kind of, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot more work as far as pistol permits go. Stuff like that, so. You know.
The plan game would be, you say have 4 guys,
Huh?
you say have 4 guys, you know, or definitely fire coordinators, that probably want 4 again. But they got a full-time position in striker and he took.
Now, this is for the sheriff,
share.
yeah, this is for the sheriff.
Now, this is one of the things the shift is that we observe a large number of possible, the GLH 911 operations being moved to the sheriff's department has caused a large increase in paperwork.
Yeah.
911 was always taken care of by the person who was in EMS.
Right,
But we gave him a fourth guy in there a couple months ago for a deputy fire coordinator, when a lot of us work in that office.
I don't know. So, do you guys want to talk about these 2 positions? Do you wanna? So you've got clerical position for the sheriff. And then the DA has a summer intern. This was talking more about
The sheriff, you know, the sheriff, actually, the civil division always made money. And I asked Dave how much it equates to. I think he said like 25,000 maybe. And, you know, I don't know if they're doing any more fees in that department to get any more, but that money comes back to the general fund that they make in that office. Because when I worked there, I know we made pretty good money. You charge interest on the executions that you're collecting for these attorneys. And then you also collect fees for serving the papers and so, you know, it does have some money coming back into the budget.
That should be the budget, but he has a revenue fund. In his budget.
I think that's a different thing.
Yeah.
Excuse me?
Says 58.
Yeah, but that's record.
That's with everything with the, yeah, yeah. So,
You got your name on it. Shoot.
they sure, yeah, I know. Thank David for that.
I want to make sure you got your support here.
Yup. Well, me and him worked in that office together a lot when I did retire, so. I did a lot of that work, believe me. Not just executions and summonses, I also did 911 work.
He did it right up like
Well, the DA did it for 3,000.
3,000.
Right.
Yeah. They're not gonna hire you over $3,000 early.
No,
Now,
Is Mike Marley retiring or what's?
soon. That's
He
what
will
they
be.
said.
Yeah, that's already through. Next year, I think.
Like, one spread.
spring.
This coming spring.
Yeah.
Well, you can now,
Maybe.
she's always saying so spring,
You don't say that, right?
and that job.
My sister-in-law, I have some saying that.
Whatever that is, it's math technician thing.
I have to stay away.
Without him, can't transfer deeds. You know, she doesn't know how to do it, nobody else in the office knows how to do it, the guy gets somebody in there, knows how to do it before Mike leaves.
So if we take that, I don't know what else you want to take out, so 10,000 for the arts. If you took that out, I don't. Yeah, I know. That takes us down to 2.79,
Need it.
it'd be under 7 if you took that out. But I'm not, I'm not saying to do it or not do it.
what did you take out, Jim?
So if you take out the 10,000 for the arts council, and you take out 58,000,
Mhm.
that's in there for
I was. Sure.
the sheriff. I'm just showing you this is what,
Mhm.
but then if they come and they say, well, we really need it, and you guys approve it next year, you have this tax. So that's what I'm saying, and if you're saying, yeah.
It is nice.
Should've-
We should do.
But
For some people, it's fine, but I'm not.
unlike the highway, that's. I mean, I'm not saying the highway doesn't, but we're gonna still pay them regardless, the same amount.
Janice, can you just leave it so as a question, and then we'll see if we can find a reduction on the remainder, or are you gonna show us it?
There really isn't
There isn't,
anything,
okay.
only, I mean, you guys saw those, So.
Assistant.
No, I mean, yeah. So I just made notes for a couple of things. These are things that I feel I'm comfortable questioning, but you're talking 5, 10, 15,000 and it adds up. You know, 6, so that's why I felt like, I'm really in my, listen, so, you know, IT is asking for an increase of $5,000 for table and chairs. And asking for 6,000 for a copier and a TV. So I don't know, for me, like, to me, that's like seems like a lot for table and chairs. And I get they want you, because I think buildings and grounds probably taking the table and chair, just seemed like a lot for table and chairs. You know, to get a table and. But again, I'm not the department head and I can question that. I don't know about a TV, why you need a TV. You know, those ground had a TV down there.
Maybe get a table.
I can't say us buying a TV
I think I'm imagining them
for anybody.
So, I mean, a table and chair, I don't know.
Have you ever been there?
Where's that?
IT?
I worked with IT quite a bit.
They got some.
You know,
I
he
always-
had asked for a lot of
I
stuff.
was there not too long ago. I'm like, God.
What's ours?
IT communications, it was up $70,000 for equipment.
It's a lot.
So what do they need a TV for, Janice? Because you got that great big one that you.
Buildings and grounds, I went down there, they had the news on all the time.
Well, lots of needs.
No, so that's what I remember talking about, is it's convenient, it's more than a favor.
No,
That one makes you odd on the screen.
y'all have the,
Well, we gotta go through all that.
No.
I did cut he put 220,000 in for, we talked about this, I cut that because of the where the situation and I'm like, we're not doing it. And I cut 50,000. I cut 50,000 from their computers and technology line. It just seemed like there was a lot of increase and there was a big increase. So I think when you have new people come in, you don't know why it's increased so much, but there were specific things in the budget last year that they had in there that they wanted that were one-time things. I'm like, okay, we'll put it in this year. But typically you spend $50,000. So all these things I talked about with Bill, but so I kind of was taking a lot, some of that was ARPA, you know, some people forget about that part. So. The contingent fund, that's one area we can use in a way to help fund some of these other things. And so, you know, we budget appropriately to begin with, that contingency fund should only be used for perhaps, you know, oddball things, emergencies, and if the union settles their agreement for the sheriff and jail union. I mean, typically we've had 300,000 in that contingency, and I put some extra in there because I was a nurse with the hospital. And I didn't know about the 775, you know, the EMS, what are we doing? So I budgeted high. But that can certainly be changed.
You budgeted half, you said.
I budgeted high. Community colleges, I thought we could reduce what we can.
everything's going on.
911 is actually using quite a bit of reserve this year to fund the 911 program. And that's something really have to watch because I'm thinking that could be depleted quickly if they're not careful. So that's something we have to watch after this year. And so technically we would have, you know, that would be levied. Okay, the sheriff's position was included. I didn't take it out, but we certainly can. I never got anything from traffic control to request anything. I don't know what they're doing, but it's like, nobody's answering. Not sure what happened there. Does anyone know or talk to those guys?
Have it in a long time.
We've reached out several times, no response, so I don't know what's going on there.
I don't even know, honestly, Jackson's made appointments to their board. But we will know next round of committees, because that's when we really gets their appointments.
Most of these are just notes, they're not decisions. I just want you guys to be aware of what I'm looking at and things that I see. Building codes. They've got that 50,000, that's the first time we're budgeting for that demolition.
Well, did he put that 20 million into his budget? That he got, or to
I did change them all.
change those? That wasn't in his budget, or so?
Slightly. I mean, their numbers didn't drive right away, you know, they didn't drive exactly, but I think his intention was what he just didn't know how to put it in words, maybe.
Well,
It's the way it should be right now, let's just say that,
it's what we awarded him. At $20,000.
the EMS training, that one could be used up too, that reserve $61,000 is left. They're using some of that. I did pull out the 775, but again, we gotta talk about that, what do we wanna do? For EMS, that's a big number to not have a plan, and it makes me nervous, I'm just saying. Yes. I did reduce, I talked with Mark. I reduced the MIS amount of the PTCs. So I only wanted 2 million this year. Be
Oh,
with that grant. DSS I questioned a lot of the budgeted amounts for DSS and I think Rachel really looked things over and after last year's return fund balance of 3 million. Decided we could probably shore up some of that and reduce it quite a bit. They didn't, you know. They really reduced, so good. So this is the community action increase 25K new healthcare scholarship fund. That's what they were calling it. So they were 8,000 in 2021, 20,000 in 2022, and now they're 45,000. Just the tourism, economic development, they were talking about a GIS plotter. They put that in the budget, I left it in there. Take it out if we want, I think they talked about it. I think Jim Bragg talked about it the other day in planning.
I think that that's a part of a plan for.
So anyways, I left that in, I don't know if. To me, it's what we need. And $78,000 for taxes, I did do that after, got that from real property. I changed up planning, zoning, and the difference in those raises, I put that into the revenue that they're billing the other municipalities, so it's 0.
I don't remember the number yet.
I'm not in charge of it. Got it. We're all just, transfer to the hospital, that was 1.6 million, I reduced. it. So that's where we are.
And you can email us out things.
What's that?
You can email us out them. So that we got
Yeah, I'll email some of it. I gotta fix it because it's only on that one sheet that doesn't do anything. And we aren't done. Okay. All right, yeah. You wanna take a break?
Yeah. Thank you, wish it was more exciting.
Yeah,
Sorry, Ed. Good job.
thank you, Janice.
Don't we all?
budgets of everything. So you guys started out, somebody great. Lunch. Say, yeah, I guess what I'm doing. So we have to cut off something, shut it off.
That makes.
That is weird.
We got some.
No. But he's forward. But he's big, he's bigger, so he's got.
I had kind of filled it in.
Yeah.
So then I said, that's this. Early. Yes. And I looked back through emails. Don't recall seeing.
I didn't get, the thing I got was
And then this one came out this morning.
just the, right?
Mhm.
The other meeting committee.
Right.
I opened it up.
And part of the reason I sent Sandy a text is my jetpack is not working. I'm ready. Even though it's new. And I foolishly didn't get insurance on it, so it's junk. Verizon wants me to buy a new one, no, I'm not buying Verizon, I'm not buying a one. So I don't have internet at home.
Yes, that's the only thing that I got. Got that, she sent
Obviously, we have cash in the county, but the levy is going to be what I'm concerned about, because you've got one chance to raise it. So before we talk about that, let's look at where we are and what I've got for the hospital, but. Let me throw this spreadsheet up. So I know you can see this. Okay, so there's where we are with 707, right here. You can see that?
Mhm.
Okay. That's with the 4.5 million. Obviously, I know this is a scary number right there. That's our real levy, 17% increase. That's where we are right now. But using 4.5 million of our fund balance takes us down to that 707. So. I did the finding, I looked at our history, like I do every year, and do 5-year plan. So I looked out 5 years, I think I did 6, only because that's the year I retired. So I'm out 6 years. So. The big nut of that is what's gonna happen in the hospital. Because let me just show you, right now, the way I'm using the fund balance to offset the increases. Down here shows how much fund balance we have to play with. So right now we're at 30 million. It sounds like a lot of money, but it's not, because we've appropriated a lot of money this year for the hospital, for the money that rolled from last year, we appropriated to by because of timing at 4 million for Ag Center. So at the end of 2022, we'll probably be around 23 million. But then when you get, so this middle column, for you to understand what that is, to me, that's our fund balance policy. That's saying this is how much about we need for our fund balance policy. So if this is our fund balance here, and this is what our policy is, this is how much we have about left over. Above and beyond what our policy says. So when I look at this, in order to use, for me, that's not a whole lot of extra the hospital's gonna continue to require $11 million.
Janice, can you get your relative list?
So. The way I have it right now, I'm feeling comfortable with it, but let's talk about what I have for the hospital. So I have no increase in borrowing for the hospital. This is the hospital line right here. So that's what I have for the hospital, and of course, we've got the debt that we say we're paying off for that project we did. We said we'll do it 408 North Main. We always give them the payment. We include that in the payover for them to have. We are doing that. So 8.9 million is what I've got in the budget plus the 91. So that's what I've got for the hospital for next year. If you look at this year, we're at 11 million that we gave the hospital. 2024, I've got 5 million in there. And then 4 million, then 3 million. If those numbers are completely off, that's what makes me nervous. So without being more integrated into what's going on, I know I've heard them say it's going to be 3-4 years. So those numbers may not even be close. That's why I don't want to use more of the fund balance. We have that cushion that I got on this page here. these numbers. They're slightly above what our fund balance policy states. So if they need $10 million next year. Or if 9 isn't enough this year, it's coming right out of the fund balance. Say they need 12. I mean, 3 million is not that much when you have this, you know, amongst other things that we've got going on. It's not a whole lot. But right now, the way it is, without using more fund balance, I feel semi-comfortable with this, but there's gotta be turnaround at the hospital.
I think it will be, I mean,
That's what they're saying, and I'm assuming with with whatever they're doing is obviously going to help. I just don't know how long that will take.
it's gonna take some time, but I believe we will see a turnaround. There in the next 12 to 18 months. And I'm talking with them anymore. You know, I'm being optimistic, but
And it, yeah, I just want to show you what, I mean, this is my, like, when you look back over the years.
Right.
There is, I mean, and I sent this to everybody. There is absolutely, I mean, we go way back here. Anything in the green, this is what we pay over to the hospital, I mean, minimal amounts of money. 300,000, 2020 pandemic. 1.6 million, 3 million, 11 million, 9. That's a terrifying trend. And I just don't know where or how it will end. But I know I'll retire, it's in the blue collar.
That line in there.
So. I'm hoping they don't need more than 5. The following year, if they do.
5 and 4.
Should be turned around by then. I mean, not turned around, but it should be. I'm comfortable with it, just what I've heard. I mean, I know Ryan is there more, but, and that's what they've been told too. They've been told that it's gotta, there's not any more money to be had.
Who's they?
Mr. Colas.
Okay.
I mean, from what I hear them say. I mean, it's all stuff that makes sense. Whether it results in. I mean, it will, but.
And I think it depends
How long?
us as well.
In what respect, what regard?
What they need to do.
Well, Becky, I mean, I support what they're attempting to do there, but I'm not gonna go into this blindly. And I'd like to know the basis, Brian, of your optimism for turning that place around in 18 months. What's the basis of what are you thinking?
Well, they've got to size the hospital to the community.
Okay, that's a key point,
Correct.
which means that we have to potentially make some hard decisions about which services that hospital provides. Correct?
Right now, the initial stuff, right side the hospital community. Without losing service.
Okay,
But yes, down the road. I don't know how far down, I don't know if it's 3 months, 6 months, or a year. Yeah,
All right.
the possibility of some services being cut out there.
is there currently discussion in that regard
Yes,
among the board of managers?
what they want to do is get it right size to start with. and to see how things are sitting at that point. You know, I mean, yes, they're looking into the future, looking at that's not enough for everything. And we gotta get back on the road of promoting that hospital instead of talking negatively about it. Because let's face it, we own it. It's like owning Ford stock. And going around telling everybody that Ford's a death trap and driving you sideways. You know, you just don't do that. We gotta get that through people's heads that taxpayers of this county own that hospital. When they ban off the hospital to the friends and family, it's been going on. But I'm not blind to that. People are doing that all over the place. They're only hurting themselves, they're hurting their tax. But anyways. We're getting a minimal amount of county participation with that, or use of the hospital.
Currently.
Currently, we're way under 50%. I don't know if there's a number been thrown out there yet, but we're way low on services that people in the community are using, are getting from this hospital. They're going elsewhere. That's
So,
probably.
so I mean, despite the fact that they may right size the hospital with the level of services, doesn't necessarily mean that they may have a meaningful impact on the revenue stream. Because people just aren't going there, right?
Right. Well, I think right side of the hospital to the community also includes the community to that, to the numbers going through the door.
Okay.
That's part of it. There's 44,000 people here. We don't need a hospital for 44,000 people. I think we're manned. I don't know these figures. I think the way I'm understanding it, we are geared to service 44,000 people, but we don't need to. That number, because we're not servicing 44,000 people. People are going elsewhere. Granted, we're getting some people from other counties too coming this way, but the numbers going through the hospital are not paying for the amount of services available there.
Okay,
Overstaffed.
sure. So Becky, what is your, the source of your optimism?
Just listening to the fact that they're looking at all the numbers there, and there's gonna be, I believe there's an outfit that's actually looking at the different parts of the hospital as far as what the right number is. I think that's gonna be coming in our next finance committee. As far as the study that's being done, and it's specific for our hospital. And it's something that's, I can't remember the name of the company, Brian, can you remember? But it was, they do just rural hospitals. And they're looking at the trend as far as what's been going on. I'm encouraged if this man was hired to do this. And we have to, I think, have faith in him and support him to try to make the changes that need to be done. He's done it before.
Who are you speaking of? COVID?
Mr. Covis,
What gives you the impression that we're not?
that we're not doing.
Right,
Oh, nothing.
okay.
I'm just restating.
I think there's not a person in the room here who doesn't believe that Mr. COVID still is his support. You know, he's a bright guy, you know, and he's doing the right things, you know. So, but I'm concerned that, you know, without a massive infusion of state or federal monies, you know, that
Well,
are we going to be able to turn it around?
Brian, are there any opportunities that talked about to increase the revenue at the hospital? Maybe some services that are going
out of the county for, or maybe there's not enough of those things to make that thing pay, you know, you see what I mean? You know, like if we established it as a stroke center or something like that.
Stay with it, what's that?
As a stroke center. Here in EMS call for stroke, emergency flight in the air.
That was the plan for the orthopedics. That was gonna be a destination. That never panned out. That's part of the reason we're in this.
My understanding.
I mean, I'm not gonna fix words. I believe that doing what we did 5 years ago and building orthopedics department we had, multiple orthopedics down there. And great surgeons down there, that people were gonna come, we were gonna be a destination hospital. That did not happen.
Wasn't part of that because our surgery rooms are, you know, 50 or 100 years old, you know?
Well,
And we're,
and that's why we're talking about, and you know, what, 10 million in?
yeah,
Well, the original surgery was 10 million and it took about 20 million. We put the brakes on that. That was the only thing that was hindering was, Dr. Clark doing bad surgeries. The equipment wasn't large, or the ORs were not large enough to house the back surgeries. But the rest of the surgeries, the joints and all the other orthopedics was all. It was an antiquated room, but there was enough room to do it there. And we had great success with what we did. I mean, our numbers our infections were down and the services were great. Just that we did not. I'm calm that.
doesn't necessarily have to be a stroke, but you know, people, they're treated for cancer, they go out of the county for that, you know, is there some way we can affiliate with somebody to, you know, to do something like that, you know?
That's all being talked about. We are talking with Roswell. About oncology. But, it's all will take time and it's.
The issue there, though, is that those types of services, oncology or cardiac, are prohibitively expensive. And, you know, despite the fact that, you know, you think you could, you know, do stent emplacements, you know, and that kind of thing. No, you gotta have a fully staffed cardiac, open heart surgery facility to be able to do that kind of work. So there's this.
Of offering a new. If you're talking about offering new service. We're looking at providing, keeping.
The
services
existing.
that we have. And try to keep those going, rather than look out, for new services.
Okay,
So that's what Joe was asking.
you're right. Well, you said stroke. I didn't know if we were.
We didn't talk about your show. Keep going. That was not, I don't believe that's the problem. Because of exactly what you said, stroke patients, you need to. If something's serious, you need to do some surgery, and we don't have a.
We don't have a department, right?
Our cardiologist is not hand. Start over the people.
I'm sorry.
Just.
Okay,
So if we're just gonna, you know, we can talk about it, but, I feel comfortable with the way we're gonna use the fund balance, and I'm more concerned about making sure we had that little extra cushion if the hospital doesn't pan out the way we're hoping. So I feel like the way we've got the next few years structured, barring another pandemic, which really hurt everybody. I feel like the communication between the hospital and us is better than I've ever, you know, than I've had in the last 8 years or so. So, you know, by that I mean I email and someone actually emails me back, you know, between David and Mark. And I feel like the points that they've talked about make sense. So I know they're looking, I mean, that's why you pay them, the money you pay them, because they're looking at every piece that they can possibly do to improve that hospital because that's their job. They know that they're there and they know that that's what's got to happen. So, I feel like the way we got this established, I feel like there's enough of a cushion in our fund balance to safety net in case something goes not the way we hoped. But what I'm looking for now, and what that's why I'm recommending the fund balance that I am put towards this. But what I would like to really talk about are two things that are gonna happen for next year. EMS, yes or no? What is the vision? What is the plan? And county administrator, how is that gonna look? And are we even in agreement in that? Are we going to do that? So those are two things I really, that's gonna take some time, I think, to discuss, and we can do that. So,
And on the EMS, I think that the figure that was talked about first was, that's all in. I mean, that was an entire program. Whereas if we were able to do like what was talked about this morning and to ease our way in,
I think that was easing our way in, the 2 fly cars and like 9 people. 24/7, that's why I was kind of asking about the 6,
yeah, 6, yeah.
but that, I don't think that's what they were proposing, it's like I, what they're,
That's what I'm saying.
so.
Right.
And
Jennifer, you have an email that we should, Brian shared with you from Monroe?
So you're fine.
Well, could you share that with us, yes or no?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I just need to take it out.
Okay.
So I'll work on, see if I can get it on my.
Well, and basically, the crux of it was after we met on finance, I think, because it was on a Friday at 4 o'clock, Brian called me and said, well, we just got a letter to notify us that they plan on notifying us, which was bizarre, that they're gonna have to change what's gonna happen, whether
Is
we
it,
have to take it over or we're gonna pay them a subsidy. Again,
But we kind of knew that.
Where did they still?
they did, but then they came and said they weren't, from what I heard.
When he came and did his presentation, if you didn't take it away from it that they were looking for a subsidy, you were asleep.
I wasn't here, so I.
I know you weren't, but that day Monroe came and did their presentation. If you didn't take away from there that they've been providing a service for us for a number of years for free, and now they want a subsidy, you aren't paying attention.
No, I agree with the subsidy, but I don't think it was the. That was told us.
And we don't know that amount.
Right, the amount we were told was not what we, I
Right,
was above and beyond.
I get that.
Yeah.
So we were under contract with them until 2024. Is what we. Now, I've been hearing rumors about this.
Mhm.
On Friday, September 30th, they emailed Brian Myers and he forwarded it to me, let's say like 3:35 in the afternoon. Brian, sorry for the delay in responding to your below email. I recently spoke with representatives on the regional council that would receive an application for an operating certificate for Wyoming County, along with an official from the Department of Health. It was made clear that Monroe would not be awarded an operating certificate currently. The shared risk formed by Wyoming County and the Monroe ambulance to operate in the current model without a near-term acquisition of an operating certificate or an alteration or termination of our current contract as specified in the separability clause in the current contract. Monroe will not leave the residents of Wyoming County in a lurch. Monroe has been a community partner to Wyoming County for 2 decades and hope to continue to partner for decades more. This said, we also acknowledge that the proposed solution may or may not align with the long-term vision for EMS services for your residents. Regardless of how you choose to proceed, given this new information, Monroe will work with you to ensure a smooth transition should you decide to move in a different direction. to mitigate risks for both parties and ensure continued EMS services in the county. With the submittal of official notice of termination of the contract, Monroe will provide a proposal based on what we presented a few weeks ago. Generally, Monroe proposes to contract with the county to provide emergency ambulance services on a staff and equipment lease model until such time as you are able to make decisions for the future. Should the board elect to enter a longer-term arrangement in the spirit of the proposed offering, we will happily work out those details together. Thank you for allowing to provide ambulance services to your constituents all these years. We are very hopeful we can continue as a valued community partner for many years to come. Warm regards, Tom.
That still means that we have to do the billing part then, because we're the whole certificate of need.
Jim, when you started up the new ambulance area, how long did it take you to get a certificate of need?
We were able to get the certificate of need transferred from Perry Emergency Ambulance to the town of Perry. There was a group of people sat in our building and they said, we'll do this for $750. Usually, I don't know, they're like 10,000. So they did that. We got the certificate. And then about 2 months later, I get this bill for like $3,000, you know, for court stenographers and all this. That bill still sits at my desk. I'd never paid it. Because they told me $750 begin. And nobody ever come ask me again. Money. That's how we were able to establish that.
But there was a need, and so that's why it was expedited.
Probably. Yeah.
I guess for me, it comes down to a couple of things. One, you know, does the county of Wyoming want to be in the ambulance business, you know, versus contracting that service through another company? And I guess if I were to say yes to that, it would only be if we had either services enhanced as a result, so that we get better, quicker response to calls if we own it, and we can make that happen. And, you know, we can do it at a reasonable cost. I'm concerned because I think, despite the fact that Brian has been here for a couple of times to talk about it, we don't have all the details about how that whole thing is going to work. You know, I'm still a little bit vague on some of the details. And the other thing is that I'm somewhat skeptic. So, you know, I have a great deal of skepticism relative to the numbers that he's come up with. That being said, you know, how are you going to, and you're going to add a little bit of or perhaps even more bit of bureaucracy, because you now have to bill for that service, right? What's that?
We're gonna start billing it.
Okay, but it's still, there's some startup associated with having to do that, right? And having staff and people and
Well, the contract
process.
be like we do, they charge you so much a PCR.
Okay.
$28. $30.
I mean, I originally, when he quoted the prices for used ambulances, I was, no way, there's no way you're gonna find used ambulances for that kind of money, you know? They were fairly cheap. So I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of his startup costs associated with the ambulance service. And if he's got a plan where we can kind of ease into this thing, you know, maybe that's a workable solution, as long as Monroe is able to kind of help us out and carry us through that process. Otherwise, we could just sit back and say, got another year and a half, right? Got another year at least. We don't have to make a decision until 2024. Is that true?
Well, they can.
That's the.
Yeah.
Well, sure, they can, but are they?
I think that's I think you're.
That's what I was reading.
Just from that email, thinking that they would lease their equipment and their people.
We don't know how much that's gonna cost though,
We do not.
so.
But do you want to pay a lease to them for equipment and people, or do you want to just hire people?
I wanna see the comparison, you know,
What's?
yeah, we need to know the numbers, exactly, we don't have that.
My
So
concern,
If we were.
contingency, what does that represent?
Oh, this number at cloud in there?
Okay.
It's not in there.
They were like 2,000,007 or something.
You said it
That's not by,
What do you have in there, Janice, 580?
in our figures, I have 500 for like an estimate, so.
As a contingency, the county. right?
I realize we're gonna have to do some, my concern is, first of all, that we're realistic about this. We have a healthcare system that we just got done talking about supporting considerable taxpayer money with. If I struggle with believing that even down the road, an EMS system managed by the county with county employees can break even or make money. Government services are not supposed to make money.
You heard it this morning when he said Livingston County's paying.
Like I said, I think we need to be realistic about it, and I don't know that we're there yet.
I'm with you.
That's my concern.
Sure.
Because the things that I have seen have shown where we can actually make money. Correct? Government's
It doesn't make.
doesn't make money. Government's not supposed to make money.
In the same sense, Mike, you mentioned the hospital, and if we gotta do different things for the hospital, it may increase where our ambulances have to go to different hospitals, and that's gonna stretch us even more.
Correct.
I don't know, some ambulances don't go out of the county. Right. You know,
We don't.
if you don't,
Well, we do. We go to Bertrand Chafee.
yeah, but you don't go to Rochester. you
We do
don't-
not.
And
Epic all goes to the Taylor or down here.
Yep, and
but
yep, it's the same thing for us,
If
basically.
you want to.
it says my prison, I don't even complain about the prison with the attic ambulance, but you know, if we have control over it, we can tell them to do that, and that
So,
Monroe doesn't do it all the time.
But by state law, the patient can decide where they want to go. And then there's a phrase in there that you will take them to the nearest appropriate facility. So if you're taking somebody with a general illness and he says, I want to, or she says, I want to go to Dansville, guess where we take them? Because by law, they're suitable to ride in our ambulance. That's where they go. You don't make the decision where they're going.
right,
You make it, they make it by the health department law.
So when we tell the patient we're going, go to Taylor or Warsaw, if you want to go someplace else, we call.
We call medicating, because at that time you suit that they're not fit for your facility or for your ambulance.
level of.
You're not gonna take care of it.
But Janice, if we had to buy equipment, can we ban that? I mean, this is something we gotta pay for in 1 year. Could equipment be banned and spread over a number of years?
Yeah.
I know you said before, we can't borrow for operations, but this is different. It's like buying a highway truck.
To borrow for that.
So what you're looking,
And
but yeah, but what you're looking for from us is what we want to do with this, correct?
yeah, like what are we going to do? How much do you want, I mean, we should definitely raise some taxes to cover it. I just don't know what the number you want to plop up there is. Do you want to say 350,000? Do you want to say 100,000? I mean, 775 was the number we got at first. What? I don't want to be a million off, is what I'm saying. If it's something we know is gonna happen.
I think we're kind of stuck using Monroe until we can make that transition if we decide to do it. It's gonna take some time.
I think what we really need to do is get from Monroe.
And we need to know the
Yeah,
exact thing.
Mhm.
Charge.
Yes,
And why did it take me so long? That's what I don't
right.
understand.
I don't,
Well, we established an ambulance in Perry for $50 an hour, it's an ambulance there. That's $1,200 a Brian Myers.
What was that, Jim?
They wanted $50 an hour to put an ambulance there, which is $1,200 a day. It's 24 hours.
Right.
Janet, did you have put in their files, 2,000?
I just popped it in there. I just put it in there, so now we're not.
What is?
Let's see, I was.
Because it's mainly going in there. to build up the-
Not exactly what. Then all of a sudden. Better.
8.28.
Where the additional cost was. So.
I would feel better.
What?
How does it affect the bottom line?
Yeah, we should do something.
I'm hearing a whole.
Next year.
There are.
At 300, we're saying that Monroe's
What's her number?
expense to us.
I understand.
Do we have any idea what the revenue generator would be on that? Off of that?
They, or the company, they present, they show breaking even, they.
Figured it out, but what was the number you gave, 300, 500?
500.
Was what, their expense or their?
They're subsidizing.
But they made it, they break it even.
And it's a bigger.
But our EMS guys told us they're breaking even over there. We're not getting the full story of that.
Well, that's just it. I mean,
Not getting about that.
first of all, we don't have,
Some numbers, need to get back all of them. That
Yep.
is to find out what's in the cost, to give us the numbers.
Right, we need their.
yeah,
I can see.
we don't have a good apples comparison here.
Right.
You know.
Solid app.
Solid apples to apples.
How about we put 200 in? How about we put 200 in, and we have 200 left in, we have 200 left in our funds. So that's gonna be our gap.
All right.
And if we can do something immediately, when you said we can borrow. Borrow the money pretty quick, and this is doing, so what we gotta look at is just get down around. Everything for staffing to get it going. And I think that's.
Right. The equipment part is gonna be.
You're gonna have to put it.
I have no idea. I have no doubt we're gonna be in the business.
I do, too. I do too.
Don't have the same.
As I said.
That's right.
And I'm.
So,
So we can't.
and I'll make a note, 200 would be,
That's all.
potentially, or.
Cheryl catch up.
Of course, Steve.
Oh, thank you.
Right. He is very.
All right.
It's there somewhere.
Okay,
He's got a step back.
oh, but really, we need a plan, and as soon as we can get something from them, we. Really, I'm not that.
Those two are not. Right.
That's one of the ways on me.
I didn't ask him this morning, you know, what kind of salary he gets, but he said he is the budget. So we have you in that position, so we shouldn't have to pay a lot more of an administrator because you're doing that part.
I want to know what you want your administrator to do.
Exactly.
I think that's what one thing I really need to do.
We start now.
Right.
If you retire, then that's.
Get the job description
With the state.
tail down.
We forwarded to Tony.
They're gonna be
Tony is nice.
barriers for me. And then trials, requirements and everything. Thank you. I don't see us ready to be through, so
Always.
July.
That's definitely.
Got it.
But you're right. I agree. It's very uncomfortable.
Which he's
And
trying
I'm
to
just
sell.
not comfortable with the figures.
So 5 to 6 months.
Sure.
Next week.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that nobody's cooking the book.
I understand fully. And
Okay.
yeah. We have time to work this out.
All right.
This is, you know,
Sure.
there's some things that need to be
What's that
straightened.
for?
I don't think that's enough.
What's the 100 for?
You're talking two people, correct? We don't know.
I would say no.
This, so this person isn't going to have an office staff?
Janice, are you the purchasing agent?
I would think it would be.
Am I?
Yeah. Clerk's fine.
Okay,
Because he said he has a purchasing agent.
okay, I'm just asking, because
I would. think
Uh,
we say, yeah.
I'm not the purchasing agent.
Okay.
Becky is.
I remember yeah.
Yeah, is that his salary?
asking.
Position 100?
Good question.
You just put in? What's that 100 that you just put
Are
in?
they going? County manager, part-time.
For what?
County manager.
Administrator.
For administrator manager. Well, it's been bid about.
You're not gonna find one.
Not an executive, because they get elected.
So, Jim. I think we can talk about his roles and responsibilities. I think, and I've said this right along, I think this group needs to know resources you have right now and what you want this person to do. Like you said, he also is a budget officer. Well, I'm the budget officer, you could take it away from me, I would hate that, but,
HR.
but you also, you know, he also said he does the grants and manages that. There's like 80 grants that I'm constantly working with every department. So I also do that. I don't do anything with HR or union agreements. I don't do anything with, I don't have time to do anything for like planning things. This EMS thing, that's something that could be done and put together and presented in a way that you guys can understand what all the, you know, not just here's what we want to do. Now, here's something, here's this option, this option, this option. And that's what should have been done.
Yes, I agree.
Now, maybe it'll be this. So there's definitely some, I mean, those are the things that need to happen and someone needs to do it. The purchasing agent, Becky's the purchasing agent, and Jerry's the purchasing agent. Do you answer a lot of purchasing questions? Huh?
Not a lot.
So,
You delegate.
Well,
It's a name.
and let me just say, I mean,
right,
looking at all this and listening to you year after year. That I respect for your knowledge and what. You know, your training and everything like that, but you also grasp of this particular county and all of our operations. Looking at the blue column that you had up there.
isn't it great?
It was very, and I'm very happy for you. And maybe when the blue column occurs, that gets more into more responsibility for the administrator. And, you know, you do that because I don't want to be around trying to find a reason. I shouldn't say that because I don't want to find a person.
But really, the county administrator, that. That's what I want to say.
And it's
The person who is spending
not going to decrease.
to
I think that's.
plan ahead, to see if, I mean, I can tell you, for whatever reason, I can tell you, the least thing you're not gonna see. It's convenient, I told you that, but your county administrator can do that. I mean, that's, those are those kind of things that tear me away from doing other things. But it had to be. So, I mean, what else is the person to do? Negotiations? I don't know. We've got HR doing that, you've got your committee, you're going to do that. I guess you really need to know what you want this person to do.
Population.
What's the person going to be paid? Because really the most minimum, our HR director is paid considerable amount of money. So theoretically, this person should be paid more than that person, but I don't know.
I think we're high on our HR director.
Well, it could be, but reality is what it is.
I would say it, but
And
we've overpaid those, we are overpaying, so.
when I listen to Mr. Coyle this morning, you know, this is about a lot of the HR decisions.
Well,
He also has some very capable staff and assistant. You know, Angela Ellis.
well, he is, his,
You know.
Angela is,
She's the head of planning.
Right, but she's also, her title is also a deputy county administrator.
there's three deputies.
Did that so that there's cross, so that there's redundancy built into the whole system. So if one leaves, you got somebody else that can be in the interim. But it's not, like he said today, he really doesn't have staff per se. I mean, it's all working as a team. With, you know, the other departments. They're all kind of
So
people.
my guess is that, you know, he handles the day-to-day minutia. You know, working with the department heads, you know, if there's a specific HR issue, he's engaged in that. He's working with the HR department on staffing. He's working with the budget office on county budget. He's working with the chair of the legislature on, you know, okay, what do we need? Well, you know, what's the high level political stuff we need to do, you know, grant writing and, you know, all that kind of stuff, you know, but you could probably come up with a fairly comprehensive list of job duties. In fact, I think we already have that.
Yeah.
You know, we have a list of job duties for a county administrator, so I think that salary, if that's the number that you plugged in.
That's not an annual salary, that's just the months in.
You're looking for an experienced person, I'm guessing $1.50 minimum. You know,
How experienced?
well, you want somebody who knows county government and how government works, and he knows how unions work. They know how to handle all of that. It's tough.
What you're looking for is a deputy administrator. Somebody, somebody, a good deputy administrator that would be willing to come and be our administrator.
Sure. Right, right. And handle all the kind of day-to-day.
So you kind of need to know how much deputy administrator you're making, and then you're gonna have to pump it up.
I mean, it's how we get our point.
Yeah. You might get away with a little bit less money for a deputy.
I'll tell you, it was really, what really impressed me with this was when he was fielding questions and he was asked about Livingston County EMS. Which wasn't.
Oh, yeah.
He brought it up, right? But he had dates, he had dollar amounts, he had the whole sequence of what they did, where they did it, who had weaknesses, where there were strengths in the community and how the whole thing operated. And, you know, he didn't know he was gonna get asked about that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like,
I think Jim took them off.
yeah.
I think Jim, oh, I'm gonna ask you about that. I'm prepared.
The thought of having a full-time sharp business person. You know. Coordinating all of that. And knowing that, okay, this is part of the county, but also knowing how that part works with the health department, works with, you know, the whole, you know, and the budget, whatever, and it's just,
And I'm sure he's on top of all the issues with the various towns and villages. You know, in Livingston County.
And they do the grants.
They do the grant for town.
And just think, he said he does like town hall meetings, so
He
we're not
does.
slowly raise the taxes.
Oh, yeah.
He'll be running that.
They just had a town hall last year.
We've been doing that for 3 or 4 years. After COVID.
Are we all kind of agreement? You have like our county appointed, county administrative parts, you know, not appointed, yes.
So that's what I just looked up the NISTAC. Listing. Albany County is 158. Albany County is 158. Broome County, 92,000. Chautauqua, 104, Chemung, 146. Livingston, 160. Montgomery, 110. Manatha, 211. Onondaga, 177. Putnam, 170. Rensselaer, 142. Warren County did not, this did not go in there.
Okay, because they just hired. I can't.
No, he said
They're looking.
Ulster, 133, West Chapter, 195. So I mean, they're all over the place.
Yeah. What's Allegheny?
Allegheny did not answer.
I think it depends too what that person.
Do they have one?
Mhm.
You gotta compare apples to apples.
He got the law back.
I need to No, Allegheny County is one that I would thought was wrong. You know, for Albany County.
If Albany County had a county executive.
That's the county executive.
County executive, that's not the administrator, that's a whole different.
That's elected.
They don't have county administrators in here. They just have county executives. I'm trying to.
So that isn't information.
Those are all elected.
Janice needs a number though. From us is what she's looking for. We, I think, are far away from where we think the duties and responsibilities of this person. But Janice, I think, is looking for
Just the number.
some number from us.
Throw in there for now. You're right.
100 is in there.
100.
Because you're talking 100 bucks, it won't happen until at least half year, you're talking a half a budget. I have a budget.
It's not,
So they're good.
it's not enough.
It's not enough, but they'll do it for a half, right?
I don't even know. It's still in the half, but it's in there.
8.28, and I want that.
What was that, Janice?
That 8.28 is where we are unless we tax rate.
And that's with using how much from fund balance?
4.5.
They do have the administrator / manager. So Cataract is 116, Portland 122. Franklin 101, Genesee 121. Jefferson got 163, Moose got 101. Warren County 120. Warren County.
What about, say,
And then you 50% for balance.
They're looking, they don't have a fight. That's a bird. $100.
100. Are we all okay with this amount? Right? With the maximum increase at 8.28.
They'll still bid.
And this increase in tax.
Yes.
Janice, where's, you scroll up a little bit.
That's crazy, the increases are.
So Arcade, Attica, Genesee Falls, Porterville, Perry's, Pike, and Weathersfield are the ones that fall below 100%.
Sheldon.
So if you scroll back down,
accounts that are
Yours will go down.
less than 3%, that was 3 years, it's 300,000.
I'm at 88. True, but still, they'll complain.
You live in a state and you have a house that's worth $100,000, or to get one. He's here actually, I think. Okay, I'm good. As a good effort. I put it there too.
This.
Yeah, put 200 because we're gonna have caps use. 200 from, if we need to, 200 from our ARPA.
Mhm.
Okay,
It's real numbers.
anyone have any questions?
Yeah.
Like I said. This one.
I give up.
Be true.
Lock and load.
That was fun.
Lock and.
Thank you, Dennis. You know,
Now you're smiling.
it is, but I,
Or is that a fake
you
smile?
might as well tell me the truth.
Now I gotta figure out.
If I'm not gonna be.
Take a valley of
Yeah. Calls will be.
I got.
But I always told my kid.
See, what you may want. Should not even allow that. No.
Are you YouTubing? Are you currently, you're YouTubing?
Yeah.
Motion to go into an executive session. For the letter. Oh, wait, you want to do that? The letter? You want to do that?
No, not yet.
Okay.
That's-